In the year 655, off the coast of Lycia, a fleet of 1,700 Muslim ships faced a Byzantine armada of over 1,000 vessels, in a confrontation that would shatter an empire's ancient dominion over the sea. How did a people from the deserts of Arabia master the waves and confront the most formidable naval power on earth? This was the moment Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan had spent 2 decades building towards, a gamble that would define his legacy and forever alter the map of power. The stakes could not have been higher. Control of the Mediterranean was the lifeline of the Byzantine Empire, the artery through which its wealth, troops, and influence flowed. For the Muslim realm, expanding under the caliphate of Uthman ibn Affan, the persistent Byzantine naval raids on the Syrian and Egyptian coasts were an open wound. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in Al-Kamil fi al-Tariq, the Byzantine navy, from its bastions in Constantinople and North Africa, launched constant attacks, threatening to reverse the Muslim conquests and strangle the nascent maritime trade. Failure was not an option. If Muawiyah's bold venture into naval warfare collapsed, it would embolden Constantinople, expose thousands of miles of coastline to pillage, and prove the limits of Muslim power. The entire western front of the caliphate hung in the balance. The strategic challenge was monumental. The Arabs were masters of desert warfare, but the sea was a foreign and terrifying frontier. The Byzantines, heirs to Roman naval tradition, were the undisputed masters of maritime combat. Muawiyah, however, the seasoned governor of Syria, possessed a vision that saw beyond the sand. His reasoning was clear and pragmatic, born from years of defending a long coastline. He understood that true security for the provinces of Syria and Egypt could only be achieved by challenging the enemy at sea, by carrying the war to their naval strongholds. As al-Tabari reports in his Tariq, Muawiyah had persistently petitioned Caliph Ummah ibn al-Khattab for permission to build a navy, arguing its necessity for coastal defense. Ummah, cautious of this new and perilous domain, initially refused, but under Caliph Uthman, Muawiyah's arguments finally prevailed. The shipyards of Acre and Tyre hummed with activity. He leveraged the maritime expertise of the Copts of Egypt and the Phoenicians of the Levant, communities for whom shipbuilding was an ancient craft. Ibn Kathir, in Al-Bidya wa al-Nihya, notes that Muawiyah assembled this fleet with meticulous care, appointing his trusted lieutenant, the emancipated slave Abulawar, as its admiral. The target was not random. The Muslim fleet, joined by a contingent from Egypt under the command of Abdullah ibn Abi Sufyan, sailed to intercept the main Byzantine fleet before it could consolidate its power and launch a decisive strike. The moment of crisis arrived with the sighting of the enemy armada near Phoenix, at a place the historians would call Dihat al-Sawari. The Byzantine fleet, commanded by the Emperor Constans II himself, according to some accounts, was vast and experienced. For the Muslim sailors and soldiers, many facing their first naval battle, doubt was a tangible force. The sea, which they were still learning to command, could become their coffin. The tactical situation demanded an impossible choice: engage a superior force in conventional ship-to-ship combat, where Byzantine skill would likely prevail, or attempt a daring and unproven maneuver. The accounts of al-Tabari and Ibn al-Athir describe a scene of intense preparation and prayer. The Muslim commanders understood their disadvantage in traditional naval tactics. They had to transform the battle into something they understood: a close-quarters, infantry-style engagement on an unstable platform. The weight of the decision rested on the commanders. One misjudgment of the wind or current could lead to annihilation and the loss of every ship and man, a disaster from which the caliphate might not recover. The resolution was a masterpiece of adaptive strategy. The Muslim fleet executed a bold maneuver, closing with the Byzantine ships and lashing their vessels directly to the enemy. As Ibn al-Athir recorded, they turned the naval battle into a series of floating infantry engagements. Boarding planks were thrown, and the decks became battlegrounds. The Muslim soldiers, unmatched in close combat, poured onto the Byzantine ships. The battle devolved into a brutal melee, where Arab martial prowess negated Byzantine nautical superiority. The sea around Dihat al-Sawiri churned with chaos, splintered wood, and the clash of arms. The Byzantine line fractured under the ferocity of the assault. The Emperor Constantine's II, according to tradition, only escaped by exchanging his imperial garments for those of a common sailor. The victory was total and catastrophic for Byzantium. The core of its naval power was destroyed, leaving the eastern Mediterranean under the effective control of the Muslim fleet. Muawiyah's two-decade vision had culminated in a single, world-altering day. The triumph at Dihat al-Sawiri cemented Muawiyah's reputation as a strategist of the highest order and secured the western flank of the caliphate for a generation. But as the sails of the victorious fleet turned for home bearing news that would echo from Damascus to Constantinople, a far more dangerous storm was gathering inland. The very unity of the Muslim community, the Ummah, was about to be torn asunder by betrayal and sword. The letter that would soon reach Muawiyah in Syria carried not congratulations, but a cry for help from a capital stained with the blood of a caliph. Evntscovid. Muawiyah's naval build-up in Syria, the Battle of Dihat al-Sawiri, the Battle of the Masts. 60,000 spears stood poised against the walls of Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire. This was not a raid, not a skirmish, but the first ever naval siege mounted by the Muslims, a testament to the ambition and strategic brilliance of their commander, Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan. The year was 674 CA. The Umayyad fleet, meticulously assembled under Muawiyah's command, had crossed the Mediterranean, a feat in itself that demonstrated the evolving capabilities of the Muslim navy. The stakes were monumental. Constantinople was the bulwark of the Byzantine Empire. Its capture would not only deal a crippling blow to the Byzantine Emperor Constantine IV, but would also open the gates to further Islamic expansion into Europe. Muawiyah, a seasoned commander with a reputation for tactical acumen, had carefully chosen his target. The Byzantine Empire, though weakened, was still a formidable force. The city itself was a marvel of fortification, surrounded by the mighty Theodosian walls and protected by the sea on three sides. Muawiyah's strategy was clear. He intended to use the naval force to blockade the city, cutting off supplies and reinforcements. As Ibn al-Athir recorded in his Al-Kamil fi al-Tariq, Muawiyah had gathered a fleet of 1,800 ships, a staggering number that underscored the scale of his ambition. The Byzantines, under the leadership of Constantine IV, had fortunately managed to muster a significant force of 60,000 troops. The stage was set for a confrontation that would echo through the annals of history. The siege began with a series of naval engagements. Muawiyah's fleet, though numerous, faced a Byzantine navy that was both experienced and well-equipped. The initial clashes were fierce, with neither side able to gain a decisive advantage. However, Muawiyah's true brilliance lay in his ability to adapt and innovate. He ordered the construction of a massive siege engine, later known as the Arab Siege Tower, which was designed to be floated on rafts and brought up to the walls of Constantinople. This tower, a marvel of engineering, was intended to allow his soldiers to scale the walls and breach the city's defenses. Al-Tabari, in his Tariq al-Rusul wa al-Muluk, vividly describes the tower as a towering monstrosity of wood and iron, a testament to the ingenuity of the Muslims. Yet, the Byzantine defenders were not idle. They employed their own ingenious tactics to counter the Muslim advances. One of the most notable was the use of Greek fire, a mysterious and devastating incendiary weapon that could be hurled at the enemy fleet. The exact composition of Greek fire remains a subject of historical debate, but its effectiveness was undeniable. The Byzantine ships, equipped with siphons, could project this fire onto the Muslim fleet, setting ships ablaze and causing chaos among the ranks. As Ibn Kathir noted in Al-Bidayah wa al-Nihaya, the sight of ships engulfed in flames was a harrowing spectacle that tested the resolve of even the bravest warriors. Muawiyah found himself at a crossroads. The siege was far from over, but the challenges mounted. The Greek fire posed a significant threat to his fleet, and the Theodosian walls remained impregnable. However, Muawiyah's unwavering determination and strategic foresight would not be easily deterred. He ordered his engineers to develop countermeasures to the Greek fire, including the use of wet hides to extinguish the flames. This innovation, though simple, proved effective in mitigating the damage caused by the Byzantine weapon. The turning point came when Muawiyah decided to launch a coordinated land and sea assault. His troops, reinforced by fresh contingents, pressed the attack on the land walls, while the navy engaged the Byzantine fleet. The sheer scale of the operation was a testament to Muawiyah's ability to command and coordinate large forces. The Byzantines, despite their valiant efforts, found themselves stretched thin. The Muslim soldiers, driven by their faith and the promise of divine reward, fought with unyielding ferocity. The siege dragged on for months, a testament to the resilience and determination of both sides. However, the relentless pressure from the Muslim forces began to take its toll. The Byzantines, despite their initial successes, found themselves unable to break the siege completely. The Muslim fleet, though suffering losses, continued to blockade the city effectively. As the winter approached, the prospects of a swift victory began to fade. The harsh weather conditions and the logistical challenges of sustaining a prolonged siege began to weigh heavily on Muawiyah's forces. The Byzantine defenders, meanwhile, used the cover of winter to reinforce their positions and prepare for the next phase of the conflict. The situation was precarious, and the outcome hung in the balance. But little did Muawiyah know that a new challenge was already on the horizon, one that would test his resolve and strategic prowess like never before. The Islamic world, though united under the banner of the Caliphate, was not without its internal strife. Rumors of dissent and rebellion began to surface, threatening to undermine the very foundations of the Muslim state. The letter that arrived that night would change everything, forcing Muawiyah to make a decision that would shape the course of Islamic history. EVNTSCOVID. First Naval Siege of Constantinople, construction of the Arab siege tower, introduction of Greek fire. The air in Damascus hung heavy with the scent of jasmine and the unspoken weight of succession. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, the seasoned governor of Syria, found himself at a crossroads, not of battlefields, but of legacy. The Caliphate, a beacon of Islam, faced a turbulent transition. With the death of Caliph Uthman ibn Affan and the ensuing civil strife, the stability of the nascent Muslim empire was fragile. The very foundations laid by the Prophet Muhammad, Arabic Sada, Arabic Lam, Arabic Caliph Muksura, Arabic Caliph, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ha, Arabic Tain, Arabic Lam, Arabic Yet, Arabic Ha, Arabic Wow, Arabic Sin, Arabic Lam, Arabic Meme, and the first two rightly guided caliphs were being tested. Muawiyah's own position, forged in years of loyal service and military acumen, was now intertwined with the future of the Ummah. The question on every lip was, who would succeed the martyred Uthman, and would that successor possess the strength to unite a fractured people? The spectre of division loomed large, threatening to unravel the tapestry of faith and governance that had been so painstakingly woven. The stakes were immense. A weak or contested succession could plunge the lands of Islam into prolonged civil war, undoing decades of expansion and spiritual growth. The meticulously established order, a testament to the wisdom of the early caliphs, risked collapse. If the reins of leadership faltered, the enemies of Islam, both within and without, would seize the opportunity to sow discord and reclaim territories. The hard-won peace and the spread of divine guidance across vast expanses of land hung precariously in the balance. Muawiyah understood this profoundly. His years as governor had taught him the delicate art of maintaining order and the devastating consequences of its absence. He knew that the caliphate was not merely a position of power, but a sacred trust, a responsibility to safeguard the faith and the welfare of all Muslims. The narrative of succession, however, began to shift dramatically with the events surrounding the death of Caliph Uthman ibn Affan. As Al-Tabari meticulously records, the Caliph was besieged in his own home in Medina. A group of rebels, numbering in the hundreds, surrounded the dwelling, demanding Uthman's abdication. The situation escalated, and in the ensuing chaos, Uthman was tragically martyred. This act of violence sent shockwaves through the nascent Islamic world. Muawiyah, as the governor of Syria and a close relative of Uthman, was deeply affected. He refused to pledge allegiance to Ali ibn Abi Talib, the newly proclaimed caliph, until justice was served for Uthman's blood. This impasse led to the Battle of Siffin, a pivotal and deeply tragic conflict. Ibn al-Athir describes the forces gathered at Siffin. Caliph Ali's army numbered around 70,000 men, while Muawiyah's forces in Syria, loyal to his demand for retribution, were a formidable contingent as well, though precise numbers for Muawiyah's army at Siffin are debated by historians. The strategic challenge for Muawiyah was immense. He was effectively in a standoff with the recognized caliph, a situation fraught with peril. To confront Ali directly meant risking a devastating civil war that could cripple the Muslim empire. Yet, to remain silent in the face of Uthman's assassination would be seen as a betrayal of his kin and a failure to uphold justice. Muawiyah's reasoning was rooted in the principle of Qisa's retribution for a crime. He believed that pledging allegiance to Ali without justice for Uthman would legitimize the rebellion and set a dangerous precedent. His strategy was to exert pressure to force the issue of justice, rather than to directly challenge Ali's caliphate from the outset. The Battle of Siffin itself was a brutal and indecisive affair, marked by intense fighting and heavy casualties on both sides. Al-Tabari recounts the harrowing accounts of the clashes, the bravery of the warriors, and the immense sorrow of Muslims fighting Muslims. The conflict reached a critical juncture when Ali's forces began to gain the upper hand. It was then that Muawiyah's general, Amr ibn al-As, devised a daring and controversial tactic. As Ibn Kathir notes, Amr ordered his soldiers to raise copies of the Quran upon their lances. This was a strategic maneuver, a plea to halt the fighting based on the sacred text of Islam. The intention was to appeal to the religious sentiment of Ali's army, many of whom were pious scholars and reciters of the Quran. This act, however, sowed division within Ali's ranks. A faction known as the Qurra refused to continue fighting against the Quran, forcing Ali to agree to arbitration. This arbitration, held between representatives of both sides, ultimately failed to resolve the core issue and further fractured the unity of the Muslim community. Muawiyah, though not victorious in a decisive military sense, had succeeded in preventing Ali from crushing his opposition and had forced a political solution that acknowledged his grievances. He had navigated a treacherous path, preserving his army and his authority in Syria, while the empire remained precariously divided. The poisoned chalice of succession, however, remained unfilled. As the dust settled from Siffin, Muawiyah's gaze turned not to immediate victory, but to the future. He had weathered the storm, but the ultimate outcome of this struggle for leadership and the implications for the future of the caliphate remained uncertain. The question of who would lead the Ummah after Ali's eventual demise was a shadow that loomed large, and Muawiyah's calculated maneuvers had positioned him as a key player in the unfolding drama. EVNTSCOVID, the siege and assassination of Uthman ibn Affan, the Battle of Siffin, the arbitration at Adhra. In the year 38 AH, a seismic fracture tore through the Muslim community. From the plains of Siffin, not one but two armies returned, and a third, more dangerous force emerged. As Al-Tabari recorded in his Tariq, this new faction, the Kharijites, numbered over 7,000 hardened warriors. They had broken away from Ali ibn Abi Talib, declaring both him and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan to be unbelievers for accepting human arbitration. Now, camped on the canal of Nahrawan near Kufa, they were not merely rebels. They were a revolutionary ideology with swords, claiming the sole right to define faith and threatening to unravel the entire political order of Islam. The stakes could not have been higher. If this Kharijite fury went unchecked, it would mean the total collapse of centralized authority. Their doctrine of takfir, excommunicating any Muslim who committed a major sin, made every leader and citizen a potential target. For Muawiyah in Damascus, the threat was existential and immediate. A successful Kharijite revolt would not stop with Ali in Iraq. It would sweep westward, targeting his own rule in Syria. The very concept of a united caliphate, already strained, risked atomizing into 100 warring bands, each claiming divine sanction. The project of consolidating the Muslim world, which Muawiyah saw as his sacred duty, hung in the balance. The initial strategic challenge was one of containment and intelligence. Muawiyah, governing from Damascus, received constant reports of the Kharijites' movements and their brutal acts. As Ibn al-Athir notes in Al-Kamil fi al-Tariq, the Kharijites at Nahrawan were initially dealt a catastrophic blow by Ali ibn Abi Talib, who defeated them decisively. However, survivors scattered, seeding cells of violent dissent across Iraq, Persia, and Arabia. These were not conventional armies to be met in pitched battle. They were clandestine networks of fanatical insurgents, emerging suddenly to assassinate governors, slaughter villagers they deemed insufficiently pious, and then melt back into the populace. Muawiyah's tactical reasoning had to adapt. He could not launch a grand campaign against a phantom. Instead, he fortified his own domain, strengthening the Syrians' loyalty through his renowned governance and ensuring his military apparatus was both vigilant and disciplined. He understood that the Kharijite virus spread in conditions of chaos and perceived injustice. His strategy was to deny it that fertile ground in Syria by maintaining stability, swift justice, and clear communication with his troops and subjects. The crisis struck not on a distant frontier, but at the very heart of Muawiyah's power. Despite his precautions, the Kharijite ideology of absolute purity found sympathizers even within Syria. The moment of profound difficulty came when Muawiyah faced the threat of assassination from within his own ranks. As Ibn Kathir recounts in Al-Bidayah wa al-Nihaya, a group of Kharijites having infiltrated Damascus, plotted to kill him during prayer, the most vulnerable moment for a ruler. The weight of leadership was never heavier. Every public appearance became a lethal risk. He had to balance the Islamic obligation of accessible leadership with the mortal necessity of security. This was the human side of command, the constant calculation, the trust frayed by suspicion, and the burden of knowing that a single moment of lowered guard could end not only his life, but also plunge Syria into the very civil war he worked night and day to prevent. Al-Tabari reports that Muawiyah was acutely aware of these dangers and adjusted his routines and guards, but the psychological pressure was unrelenting. The resolution was a demonstration of both ruthless efficiency and political acumen. Muawiyah's security apparatus, honed by years of border warfare with Byzantium, proved effective in identifying and neutralizing internal Kharijite cells. But his true strategic payoff was broader. While Ali ibn Abi Talib in Kufa was increasingly consumed and weakened by battling Kharijite uprisings within Iraq, a draining conflict that cost him men and moral authority, Muawiyah ensured Syria remained a bastion of relative order. He let the Kharijite fury exhaust his primary rival. Furthermore, he used the existential threat they posed to frame his own political argument. To the wider Muslim community, he could present himself not just as Ali's political opponent, but as a necessary bulwark against anarchy. The Kharijites, by making all authority illegitimate, made the case for a strong, unifying authority themselves. Muawiyah's tactic was to hold the line, protect his people, and allow the chaotic consequences of the Kharijite doctrine to demonstrate, painfully, why his model of governance was needed. As the year 40 AH dawned, the Kharijite fury reached its horrific, logical conclusion. From their scattered remnants came the assassins who murdered Ali ibn Abi Talib in Kufa. With a single dagger stroke in the mosque, the landscape of the Muslim world was violently remade. In Damascus, Muawiyah received the news. The great rival, the son-in-law of the Prophet, was gone. The arbitration was void, the field was clear. The Kharijites, in their hatred for both men, had removed one of the two poles of the Muslim world. For Muawiyah, the path to unifying the caliphate under his leadership was now starkly open. But the same fanatical hatred that felled Ali was still alive in the shadows. The letter that would arrive from Hassan ibn Ali, Ali's eldest son, was already on its way, but so too were the whispers of the remaining Kharijites, for whom Muawiyah was now the ultimate tyrant. The greatest power now brought the greatest peril. EVNTSCOVEID. The Kharijite emergence post-Siffin, Muawiyah's containment strategy against Kharijite infiltration in Syria, the assassination of Ali ibn Abi Talib by a Kharijite. The year is 40 AH. The Islamic world is in turmoil. Ali ibn Abi Talib, the fourth rightly guided Caliph, faces a crisis that threatens to tear the Ummah apart. In Kufa, his capital, tensions simmer. As Al-Tabari recorded in his Tariq al-Rusul wa al-Mulak, Ali finds himself at a crossroads, torn between his duty as a leader and the fracturing unity of the Muslims. The Khawarij, a radical faction, have broken away, declaring him an apostate. In Egypt, a growing rebellion led by Amr ibn al-As gains momentum, challenging his authority. The stakes are clear. Failure to act could mean the collapse of the caliphate itself. The strategic challenge is immense. The Khawarij, though fewer in number, are fanatical and unpredictable. Their numbers fluctuate, but their influence is vast, stretching from Kufa to the outskirts of Basra. Ali's forces, though larger, are divided. Ibn al-Athir notes in Al-Kamil fi al-Tariq that Ali commands around 40,000 men, but loyalty is a fragile commodity. Meanwhile, Amr ibn al-As consolidates power in Egypt, a region rich in resources and strategic importance. The terrain is unforgiving deserts, rugged landscapes, and distant cities make communication and supply lines precarious. Ali's tactical reasoning is rooted in justice and unity. He refuses to resort to brute force, seeking instead to reconcile with his opponents. The sword is only to be used when the truth is suppressed, he declares, echoing the prophetic tradition. His strategy is one of patience and diplomacy, but time is running out. The Kharijite attacks grow bolder, and Amr ibn al-Az's influence spreads. Ali knows that failure to act decisively could lead to chaos. The crisis deepens as the Khawarij launch a series of assassinations, targeting key figures in Ali's administration. As Ibn Kathir records in Al-Bidayah wa al-Nihaya, the scouts report that the Khawarij are planning an even deadlier strike. Ali is faced with an impossible choice: escalate the conflict and risk further division, or continue his policy of restraint and risk being overthrown. His character is tested, his faith in justice wavers. But Ali remains steadfast, his intention rooted in the preservation of the Ummah. The resolution comes in the form of a tactical shift. Ali decides to confront the Khawarij directly, but not with brute force. He sends delegations to negotiate, offering amnesty and a chance for reconciliation. His strategy works. Some Khawarij factions lay down their arms, recognizing the wisdom in his approach. Ibn Khaldun, in Al-Muqaddimah, highlights Ali's ability to turn adversaries into allies through his unwavering commitment to justice. But the victory is bittersweet. The threat from Egypt looms large. Amr ibn al-As, undeterred, continues to rally support against Ali. The letter that arrives that night changes everything. It bears the seal of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, and its contents are a declaration of war. Eventcovid. The Khawarij rebellion, Amr ibn al-Az's growing influence, Ali's strategic shift towards diplomacy. The year 661 CE marked a turning point, a moment when the Islamic world teetered on the brink of fragmentation. The succession, following the martyrdom of Ali ibn Abi Talib, was fraught with peril. With an estimated force of over 60,000 men loyal to the cause of his son Hassan, and Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan commanding a similarly vast army, the stage was set for a conflict that threatened to tear the nascent Ummah asunder. The very fabric of unity, painstakingly woven by the Prophet Muhammad, Arabic Saga, Arabic Lam, Arabic Caliph Muksura, Arabic Caliph, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ha, Arabic Tain, Arabic Lam, Arabic Yet, Arabic Ha, Arabic Wow, Arabic Sin, Arabic Lam, Arabic Meme, and his successors, was in grave danger of unraveling. The stakes were immense. A prolonged civil war, pitting Muslim against Muslim, would not only decimate the men of faith, but also invite external enemies to exploit the internal chaos. The hard-won conquests, the spread of Islam, and the spiritual foundation of the community were all vulnerable. The legacy of the Rashidun Caliphate, the years of revelation and guidance, hung precariously in the balance. Failure to achieve reconciliation would mean a return to tribalism and division, a tragic repudiation of the unity the Prophet, Arabic Saga, Arabic Lam, Arabic Caliph Muksura, Arabic Caliph, Arabic Lam, Arabic Lam, Arabic Ha, Arabic Tain, Arabic Lam, Arabic Yet, Arabic Ha, Arabic Wow, Arabic Sin, Arabic Lam, Arabic Meme had strived to establish. Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, now firmly established as the governor of Syria, faced the monumental task of consolidating his authority and navigating the treacherous political landscape. The initial fervor following the assassination of Ali had left a fractured state. While many pledged allegiance to Muawiyah, the legacy of Ali and the legitimacy of his sons, Hassan and Hussein, remained a potent force, particularly in Kufa. The strategic objective was not merely military victory, but the re-establishment of a unified leadership that could command the loyalty of the diverse regions of the expanding Islamic State. Muawiyah's reasoning was rooted in the understanding that prolonged conflict would be ruinous. As Al-Tabari records, the immense cost in lives and resources of a protracted war against a segment of the Muslim populace was a primary consideration. His strategy, therefore, was one of calculated political maneuvering and the demonstration of strength, aimed at achieving peace through a negotiated settlement rather than annihilation. The challenge lay in bridging the deep chasm of mistrust and resentment that had festered during the preceding years of turmoil. Muawiyah extended overtures of peace to Hassan ibn Ali. The negotiations were delicate, fraught with the weight of past grievances. Ibn al-Athir notes that Muawiyah's messengers carried not only words of reconciliation, but also significant financial incentives, a testament to the pragmatic approach employed to quell dissent and secure unity. The offer was generous, aimed at securing Hassan's abdication and the recognition of Muawiyah's caliphate. This was a moment of immense pressure for Hassan, torn between his perceived right to leadership and the devastating prospect of civil war. The weight of the Ummah's future rested on his decision, a decision that would echo through generations. He had to weigh the potential for a bloody conflict that would weaken the Muslim state against the possibility of a peaceful resolution, even if it meant relinquishing a claim. The resolution, when it came, was a testament to the political acumen of Muawiyah and the weariness of a community exhausted by internal strife. Hassan ibn Ali, recognizing the futility and danger of continued conflict, agreed to abdicate. This act, though controversial for some, ultimately paved the way for the unification of the Ummah under Muawiyah's leadership. Ibn Kathir describes the immense relief that spread through the Muslim lands as the threat of widespread bloodshed receded. Muawiyah, now recognized as Caliph, turned his attention to solidifying the state, strengthening its borders, and continuing the expansion of Islamic influence. The foundations of the Umayyad Caliphate were laid, a new era dawning after years of tribulation. Yet, as the dust settled, whispers began to emerge from the far-flung territories. Reports of unrest in the easternmost provinces, where the seeds of dissent had been sown, began to reach Damascus. EVNTSCOVID. Negotiations between Muawiyah and Hassan ibn Ali, abdication of Hassan ibn Ali, unification of the Ummah under Muawiyah.